Let me give you one piece of advice. Be honest. He knows more than you can imagine.
At last.
It's an honor to meet you.
No. The honor is mine. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
What's going on, everyone? This is Raven, and this is my very first video guide for Diablo 4. Before we get started with my guide, let me just introduce myself real quick. I am pretty old, and I played Diablo since I was a kid back in 1997, 1996 with Diablo, with the first Diablo. I really started with the second Diablo. With a Barbarian. I always been a Barbarian. I was a support Barbarian in Diablo 2, ZDPS Barbarian in Diablo 3. I played all classes, of course, but the classes that always click with me, that work with me, was always the Barbarian. It's the classes that I always min-maxed to the next level if it was possible. And yeah, I also now started with Diablo 4 pre-season, closed beta, open beta. I always play Barbarian. And pre-season I started with a werewolf build, but then I got bored of it a little bit for some reason, and then I switched to Hota, and yeah, thanks also to the broken aspect, I was pretty broken. And season 2, the first season, everybody, well, it's true that Hota and Werewolf are not as good as they were pre-season. Hota because the aspect fix that in reality completely destroyed the build in a way. The build does still pretty good damage, but not as good as it was in pre-season. And the Whirlwind is still pretty good end game, but before you have the right gear for Whirlwind, the build does just not work that well. And especially also because they fixed the gore devastating, the glows, but that fix actually completely make that item complete garbage. And yeah, so I was like, what's going on? I actually, at the beginning I thought as well that Barbarian was not gonna be good, and but then I saw this, and when I saw this, I was, that looks pretty good. And then I saw this, and I was, oh, interesting. And I was, okay, maybe we can cook something about it. And that's why I created basically I call it the Wall of Thorns Barbarian. I know there are other builds, Thorns, but mine is a little bit different. It's different because I increase the survival aspect of it. I increase the life, the armor, and it works pretty well. Increasing life basically also means for Thorns increasing damage, because more thanks to the passive nodes in the tree, we actually, with this one, we get more Thorns. So yeah, more life, more damage. But yeah, so that's the reason, the foundation why I basically was planned like everybody else to play the rogue, and then eventually switch to the Barbarian. But I thought that it was possible to build something, and in fact I did. The Wall of Thorns works great. It's very strong. It's actually, I don't want to say too strong because my character is now at level 70, so I can't really push at the moment to 100, but I am confident that can be pretty broken, and we will talk about that. But first of all, there is the skill tree. It's all classic. We start with Flay. We get Enhanced Flay for the vulnerable damage buff, and we make them vulnerable. Vulnerable was nerfed, but it's still pretty decent, and with some damage reduction in here that is stuck up to 4 times. Then we go to Rend, we just 2 points on Rend because we need points for stuff that is much more important. So we do extra duration for vulnerable damage on enemies by 2 seconds. And also here we have Violent Rend that increase the damage to vulnerable enemies. Pay attention that we are gonna get a lot of buff on vulnerable damage to enemies on the skill tree and in the Paragon Born. And instead, like many other builds, buff the damage into the item as well, we are not gonna do that. We are gonna instead use injured enemies, but we will talk about this in a couple minutes. So then we input more life again. That's one of the key points of the build, because remember, more life means more thorns. Damage reduction to edits, it's always very good because once again this actually is a damage buff, because it means when you get hit by an elite and you have a 9% damage reduction, it means that you can stay under them more, and the more you stay there under them, thanks to your armor stacking and your life stacking, you do more damage to them. That's the catch. So we have Rallying Cry, as always. You need the shouts. I mean, any build, we can't escape from them, guys. They're just too good, too powerful. Some people think they're cringe. I don't know. I like the shouts. I think it's like a signature of the Barbarian, and shouting as running at full speed is pretty awesome. So yeah, all the classic. We get this one, very very important, of course, Unstoppable. You can't remove that. And a little bit of extra generation. That one, we can get that one as well, but we get so much fortify increase anyway, so it's really up to you, really, these two. Which one works the best for you, you can feel free to switch it. Then we, of course, Hot Burst, because, you know, we have to maximize our thorns as much as possible. And this one is very important because we are gonna increase this with our amulets. You're gonna need a passive that increase the level of Falfa's nails passive. We're gonna maximize Challenging Shout because, again, it says damage reduction. It is a damage reduction, but once again, we are Thorns. We are nowhere win. We are no Hota. We stay on the face of the bosses. We stay on the face of our enemies. We don't move, we stay there, we face tanky and we destroy them. So the more damage reduction we have, in reality, more we stay there, the longer we stay there, more damage we give to them, and we are gonna just wipe them out. So we're gonna get the bonus, of course, maximum life, and this one very very important. While Challenging Shout is active, gain thorns equal to 30% of maximum life. That is insane. Then we are gonna get, of course, Warcry, classic. It is really good, of course, because we're gonna increase our fortify value. Voice, more the shouts last longer. The more damage reduction we get, which means again more damage. And more damage as well anyway, thanks to our Warcry. So it's like a double, it's a win-win situation. The heal as well increase our time that we can stay under the boss, under the enemies. In reality, it's a buff in damage as well. And this as well Your shouts cause enemies to deal 12% less damage for 5 seconds. I think now it's pretty clear to you guys what does this also mean. We stay there longer, we create more damage. Once again, another 9% damage reduction while berserking, and we are gonna be in berserk mode basically most of the time. I'm at level 70, my gear is far away from being fully optimized, far away from being min-maxed, and I am in berserk mode 80% of the time. And my Paragon Born is far from being completed. When you will be on level 100 with my build, Paragon Born completed, I hand tier gear, you will be, I will say, berserk mode almost 100% of the time. Then we have Pit Fighter, pretty good as always. You deal 9% increased damage to close enemies, again, distant damage reduction. Once again, you will do thorn damage also to distant enemies, so that works perfect. Very important, Steel Grasp. Steel Grasp works for Thorns Barb like nothing else. Not only you pull them to you, because we don't run as fast as a Hoffa or a Whirlwind, almost like them, but not as fast as them, and we don't need to chase the mobs like the other classes do. We pull them to us, and by pulling them to us, we also make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. Perfect. And berserking, extra 2 seconds, absolutely perfect. It works just perfect for our form builds, because our form builds, one of the cornerstone of one of the cornerstone of form builds is being berserk mode. Thick skin, but it's pretty good, but that's the one, counter offensive. While you have fortify for over 50% of your maximum life, you deal 12% damage. Perfect. We skip all this, we don't need nothing of this garbage. Well, at least it's garbage for us. And that one. Once again, increasing berserk mode and the length of it. Because our goal is to be 100% of the time in berserk mode. Increase berserk maximum duration by 5 seconds and increase its damage bonus by 25%. Which means the berserk is already 25%, so we have a 50% increased damage on berserk. Absolutely insane for our build. So to the gear, now we're gonna put the aspect of numbing wrath. Each point of fury generated by the maximum fury grants fortify, and this is what you're gonna look for, guys. Cooldown reduction, maximum life, total armor, and strength. These are the best, but if you find stuff that is almost as good as this, let's say you don't have total armor, but you have, I don't know, some type of resistance that you need, even though resistance is garbage. Try, especially guys, before you reach a very high level, let's say 85 plus, try not to be so strict with your gear. It's of course this will make your character much more powerful, but even if you miss one of these, it doesn't mean that your character it's not gonna work. Very important in this case, it's maximum life, because remember, the more life you have, the more thorns you have. The more thorns you have, the more damage you do. The more total armor you have, the more you can stay on the face of your enemies, and the more damage you can dish out. And strength actually increase the damage output of your thorns. More strength for the Barbarian means more damage out. Your thorns generate more damage. Of course, Razor Plate, that's a best in slot. I still don't have it, and my build works just fine. I cannot even imagine what's gonna happen when I will get this one. This thing, level 70, still haven't dropped it. That's my luck, I guess. Gloves, aspect of berserk ripping, and we are gonna put that give us whenever you deal their damage while in berserk, inflict a 20-30% of the base damage dead as additional bleeding damage over 5 seconds. That works great with our rend. It's not like our main damage generation. Our main damage generation will always be Thorns, but it's a pretty good extra, and it does dish out quite a lot of bleed damage, so that works great. Plus, it works great with our Berserk. We are always in Berserk, that's our goal, so that's great. Then pants, we are gonna put Aspect of Might. That grants a 20% damage reduction from 2 to 6 seconds when we use our basic skill. We will use once fairly often our basic skill. We will attack fairly fast. That extra damage reduction is pretty good. And there are other aspects that you can use, but I think that one is the best. That one is a no-brainer. We are unstoppable most of the time, thanks to our Berserking. And yeah, if you get that 25% increase in movement speed, that's sorry guys, I completely forgot about the stats. So for the Barbarian, for the gloves, you want strength, attack speed, damage to injured enemies, not vulnerable, but injured enemies. And ranks to rend, if you can have it, it's pretty good. If you have other stuff, I don't know, like let me see what we can have in here, like for example damage to bleeding, that would be fine as well. For the pants, damage reduction while fortify, damage reduction, these two, especially damage reduction but also damage reduction while fortify, don't roll very often. They are kind of rare rolls. Most of the time you will rolls like damage reduction from distance enemies, damage reduction from close enemies, or damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding. These are fine as well. That's what I was saying. Try to be to adapt your gear to the situation. Most of the time, until you are very high hand contact, you won't probably really roll that off that is damage reduction while fortify. But if you have a damage reduction from distance enemies, damage reduction from close enemies, these are great as well. Maximum life, of course, and Berserk duration, because we are often in Berserk mode and we also want to extend the duration of it, thanks to our 50% damage increase from our tree. We already did see the boots, and anyway, yeah, the boots move and speed, no brainer, best in slot. And for me, other builds don't put this, but for me it's move and speed for 4 seconds after killing an enemy. To me it's outpace Fury. We don't need future generation. We are with that for my form build, you will have plenty of Fury. You don't need Fury. And Berserk duration, strength increase our damage output. For the hammer, for the two-hander hammer. So here, this is a must. You cannot not change. You cannot do anything else than this. You need needle flare aspect, because it says Thorns deal. Thorns damage that has 20 to 40% chance to deal damage to all enemies around you. Basically increase exponentially our AoE output. It's absolutely a must for our build. And here you want strength. Most of the other builds say damage injured, damage to vulnerable. I don't. Damage to injured enemy. For who doesn't know, injured enemies are when their health is under 35%. And that works great for us, because with this build, when the enemy hits 35%, you are literally gonna melt them to the ground. And the damage to close enemies and bleeding enemies, it's already more than enough to make you reach real quick the 35%. Especially also considering one thing, and you're gonna see when I'm gonna show you my character. Damage to injured enemy was not nerfed, where vulnerable damage got reduced by 40%. So all the values of your stats in your weapons are all reduced by 40%. It's not by injured damage. You can roll on your weapon some insane values. and I'm gonna show you on my character. And in my opinion, this outmatch vulnerable damage for Thorns. I don't know, and I don't think it would work for Alpha, especially because Alpha, your goal is, if possible, is to double shot, one shot enemies, if you can, but I don't know if they can anymore. But for Thorns, we need to reach the 35%, and when we reach the 30%, which works great also for bosses, by the way, where we have huge pools of HP. Now, this is our strength, so that's why I choose injured over vulnerable. Of course, as I said before you are eye hand gear, try to adapt. If you roll something like this, but instead of injure as vulnerable, you know, that's still pretty good. It doesn't mean that it's garbage. This is what, in my opinion, it's the best. First, dual wield weapon, we are gonna use axes in our case, because we want that damage to the health enemies. If enemies are enemies with life over 80%. And we are gonna use for the first one, aspect of inner calm, deal 5 to 10% increased damage for each second you stand still, up to 30%, and that works great for our Thorns, right? We are super tanky, we are very, very resilient. We are not like all the other classes. We can stand under everybody. Nothing is really ever gonna wash out you. I don't know about Uber Elite. In season 1 I didn't be in there yet, but at the moment nothing can one-shot me ever. It takes a long time to bring my HP down, and this is perfect because we stand there, we stay still, and our damage increases by 30%. Once again, strength, close enemies, injure enemies, and bleeding enemies damage. Amulet. For the amulet, we are gonna just increase our armor. Since it does a 1.5 multiplicative, we can have a 0.70% increase armor for 4 seconds, and it stack up to 30%. So that works great. Increase our armor so we can stay under our enemies more, and as always, more damage. Now, this one is different than most of the other builds. Also, the other builds, instead to use that one, aspect of berserkivity, they use the one that give you fury when you have your shouts active. But we don't need that, because we are always in berserking mode, or most of the time always in berserking mode. So we generate more fury with this aspect. I tested it, and I am 100% sure this is way superior for Thorns Barb. And of course both chieftains, because decrease our cooldown when we shout, and the more we can use our shouts, it's always much better for the barbarian, every build. So second hand slashing, we're gonna use an axe, because we want that damage of healthy enemies. If you have a good sword, of course, with very good rolls, use it, but in the hand, it's the axe that, in my opinion, is the best for the Thorn Barbarian. You're gonna have strength, you're gonna have close enemies, damage to bleeding enemies, and here I put vulnerable damage, because for two main reasons. First, I want to show you that it doesn't necessarily must be one thing only. As I would say, try to adapt to the situation. Vulnerable damage is still pretty good. Plus, we already stacked a lot of damage to injured enemies. So, adding a little extra, we also had a lot of vulnerable damage in our Paragon board. So we don't, as I said, we don't need that much vulnerable damage in our skill tree or in our gear, but you know, I had this vulnerable damage, but if you wanna change it with injured enemies, that would be fine as well. And the second one-hander weapon, of course, axe as well. Oh, sorry guys. Absolutely the most important aspect of the whole build, Death Wish aspect, gains Thorns while berserking. Combination with our razor plate, this is what allows the quantity of our Thorns to skyrocket. You cannot not use this. You have to use this one. Once again, for one-hander, offhand is going to be a hacks as well, and we're going to use the aspect of Burning Rage. There wasn't really much I could put in here, so it's pretty good. It's extra overtime damage. It's non-physical though, so we don't really have a lot of buff for non-physical damage, but again, it dish out pretty good damage, so it's pretty good. We're gonna use strength, damage to close enemies, vulnerable damage, and damage to injured enemies. Once again, you can switch it. If you have vulnerable damage and you have bleeding damage, you know, you can do that as well. So, for the gems, we're gonna use, for the weapon, we're gonna use the Hammer Fist. Damage over time, it works great with rend and with all our bleedings. Thorns, if for the armor, if my character was hardcore, I would have considered to use the ruby, so increase our life. But in this, if you are a softcore player, I think Thorns is just better. It give you much, not much, but it give you significantly more damage if you need survivability. If you feel your character is still a bit squishy, you can switch this for ruby. Amulet, you're gonna put the Barber. That's it. There's nothing to say. Absolutely broken. I don't know what to say. It's just the damage that only just this Wrath of Earth give to you. It's just critical strike on all subsequent damage within 2 to 4 seconds is absorbed by your target, and then the damage erupts into surrounding enemies. Stored damage is increased by 15% per second. Here it doesn't sound that much, but try it and you will see. The damage output this thing, it's absolutely out of control. I assume the Blizzard might fix this because it's just crazy. For the ring, we use Revenge. 10 to 20% of incoming damage is instead suppressed when you use a defensive, and we do have a defensive. We have a defensive with Challenging Shout, and we have a defensive with Running Cry. So that works just perfect for us. All suppressed damage is amplified by 50% and explode, dealing fire damage to nearby enemies. I use it, it works great. I suggest it, but once again, I'm still testing with these hearts, with this season mechanic, so I'm not still 100% sure about this two. I'm sure about that one though. And ring, this one, I don't know, the other one didn't really convince me. I don't even use this at the moment. I don't know even if I even use that one. I just have this because again, I'm testing, so I'm not sure, but this seems to work pretty well every 5 seconds while above 60% life. Core skills deal life, but it has a 20 to 30% damage increase, and with rend I think it works pretty well. Let's go to the Paragon real quick. Okay, this is the Paragon board. Let me see if there is anything important. I'm gonna link everything on the comment section on my YouTube video. We are gonna use Territorial. You get damage reduction and also increased damage to close and targets, which is perfect because we are always in the face of our enemies. We are never gonna be any type of range besides maybe Steel Grasp, but again, we are close all the time in the face of our enemies, so that works great. These notes here, you might want to switch this at the hand if you want to. It gives a 4% maximum life and armor. I have extra points I put in here, but they're gonna show you if you want, you can use these points somewhere else. Okay, Marshall, we're gonna use it as the second glyph. Grants to a 125% bonus to all magic nodes in range, so we have a good increase in our damage to bleeding and also a damage reduction from as they are bleeding, which basically they are bleeding all the time. You can put this one in if you want, that's fine. I'm gonna use Blood Rage for this one. Then the second is gonna be Bone Breaker with Blood Feeder as a glyph, and it says it basically give you critical strike chance against bleeding enemies. My ultimate goal for my build is to make a crit Thorn Barbarian, and I think it might be absolutely the ultimate Thorn build, but it really needs a lot of gear. It needs to be 100%, 100 level, so I'm gonna make it change this build in future. But even now, even if I'm not a crit Thorn, it works pretty well. Some extra, because remember, I don't know if you know, guys, you can crit with Thorns, okay? And also you have for every 5 points on dexterity, 8% increased damage to bleeding targets. We always bleed our target. Then we go to Decimator and the Undaunted, damage reduction and increased damage while fortified. We are always fortified. And then we are Weapon Master with Disemboweled, because it works this part of the Paragon board with this and Willpower. There are lots of willpower, so we can get the extra, which is killing a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to reduce the cooldown of your non-ultimate active cooldowns by 1 second. This combined with this, it's nuts, because you bleed everybody all the time, so you're gonna get that 10%. It's gonna trigger very, very often. And the last one, we go Carnage with Ire, which we have, and this is also, it's the last one, because before you reach this point, you're gonna be in Berserk mode 80% of the time, 85% of the time. For every 5 strength, increase damage while berserking, and also you get the additional bonus, which while berserking, you take 10% reduced damage from elites, so that works just great for us. Also, Enraged in the Blood Rage, increase berserking duration 15%, 7.5%, 7.5%. That is gonna make your berserking last a very, very, very long time. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you, we are gonna go in game and gonna do real quick a Nightmare Dungeon run with my character. So, and we are in game, and I'm gonna show you real quick my character. It's nothing really special, so still level 70. So we have here, as you can see, it's not exactly the same as it was suggesting the best in slot, because again, I'm progressing, so it's still not the best in slot, but it works just fine. We have maximum life, maximum fury. I would love something else, but that's what I got. I will have love strength, cooldown reduction, and total armor. And here we have disobedience. I'm gonna use this one at the moment since I don't have razor plate, but it's still pretty good. We have some thorns, and all the physical damage works great for us. Damage reduction from invisible bleeding works great, so that's pretty good. With gloves, critical strike chance, because again, one of my goal is to build a crit Thorn, but it's like kinda a long term. Attack speed is pretty good. Damage, physical damage over time with run. Here we have our pants, again nothing special. Damage reduction while fortified, that's pretty good. We have a Ransom Warcry, if you have it, keep it. Berserk direction and damage reduction from close enemy, perfect. Our boots, fury cost reduction, we really don't need that. Poison resistance, that's a bad roll, I need to reroll it. I just broke her at the moment, so movement speed, and we have the Ghost Walker aspect. For the hammer, we have damage to close enemies, 61%, and this is still like a 771. It's like nothing crazy item level. It's just a 771, nothing crazy. Basic skill damage, that's to me it's kind of bad roll, but that's what I got. Again, it's just a momentary item, just for the moment. And we have the form damage that 40% chance to deal damage to all enemies around you, and I use the overtime, the amethyst gem. For the axe, we have strength, critical strength damage. That's a bad roll. I mean, it's okay, but I will have a lot of something like injured enemies. Vulnerable damage, damage to bleeding. Because the damage, once again, see, you want the axe because of the damage to healthy enemies. That works very well with Thorns. Damage to injured, we have 48%, because remember guys, injured enemies damage was not nerfed. And strength, and we have the inner calm aspect, increased damage over time as you stay still. Then we have the axe, again, nothing too crazy, but we have this axe with 84% damage to healthy enemies. Vulnerable damage, that's my roll, 96% to injured. Look at the difference between vulnerable and injured, guys. It's absolutely insane. Yes, it's true, vulnerable damage, it's all the time. Meanwhile, injured enemy triggers when the enemy's health is under 35%. But their value is so insane to me that it just works great. Damage to close enemies, 51%, strength, and then we have the Death Wish, which gives Thorns, while we are Berserk. We are Berserking all the time, so we have this extra tone all the time. Amulet. I have this amulet only for one only thing. For the ranks of tough as nails. This is insane for the Thorn Barbarian. It increases, let me show you. Usually it's 9%. I have an increase of Thorns by 18%. That's why you want that. And if you can roll this, with also Outburst, that would be insane. And then again, you want, if you can cooldown reduction or damage reductions. So basically it is amulet besides the passive increase. It's not good, but it works. So that's fine by me. And we have numbing, I'm kidding, this case I have numbing wrath, but again, you will eventually want disobedience. As you can see, I'm adapting, I'm not sticking 100% to my bit because I'm leveling, so it's fine. And I have Barb. And critical strike and all subsequent damage within 2.9 seconds is absorbed by your target and then explodes by increasing the damage by 14%. We have this ring with bolt chieftain, barrier generation, we don't need it, that's what I go again. But I have a lot of life, so it gives out a lot of thorns. Like I can show you when I remove it. Let me see thorns. Okay, thorns, we have 3, 4, 3, 2. There you go. That's so life gives quite a lot of thorns, and we have life here as well. This one is with the Berserk Fury, which increase our fury while we're in Berserk mode. Damage to close enemy, very good. Damage to crowd control enemies, which is decent because we crowd control with Challenge Shout. Taunt is a crowd control. Okay. Also, want to show you one thing. Look at that damage to injure enemies, 52%. Look at that vulnerable damage, 15. Yes, it's not a good roll, but still, look at the difference. It's humongous. And yeah, the all the gem. See, as you can see, I didn't even switch all the gem, and I don't use this lot even. I don't care. And this one is just there. What I have it? Fire damage. Yeah, it's good. I mean, so yeah, let's test it. Alright, let's do this Nightmare Dungeon there quick. So let's... You will see that I'm literally gonna stomp on everything. Like, there you go. Like, I just use my shouts. Like, I just walk, guys. I'm like, hello, see ya, bye. There you go. Okay, sure, why not? Let me see. Okay, what there? Always use your shout on cooldown, like, you know, don't be stingy. Also because of your aspects and your nodes and your Paragon, you're gonna have decrease on them, so use it all the time, guys. Also be smart when you form is pretty easy, but you have to use your brain a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, if you see enemies, the more enemies you have around you, the more damage you dish out. So always keep an eye around it and see if you see somebody else and you pull them towards you, so you can increase your damage exponentially. You don't really have to, I mean, I can stay and just kill him anyway, but for sure the more enemies you have, the more damage you're gonna do it. Where is the, oh, there is. Wow, that dungeon, the density nerf, guys. Damn. It's like empty. Holy. Good job, Lizard. Anyway, hopefully they will fix it. There you go. What happened to his health? There's something. He got formed. Oh, there's another there. As you can see, I'm literally just... I'm not even paying attention, guys. I mean, I'm distracted because I'm talking to you. So I'm not even using that build at 100% of its capabilities. They are level 75, by the way. I'm level 70, so... They are 5 levels above me. If they were same level, or 2-3 levels above, they would be literally dying by just walking by. Once again, guys, I mean, that's gonna be pretty much it. I'm gonna finish the Nightmare Dungeon, and I'm gonna actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna skip it, go to the boss, and see you there. Okay, guys, this dungeon, this Nightmare Dungeon doesn't have a single boss. This is a Nightmare Dungeon that has like a couple packs or like Uber leads, kinda. So let's see what happens to them. You wanna see how long it took me to come here? See at the time on top right, and you can make your assessment how long it took. I think 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Anyway, let's keep going. I mean, just there you go. There are. Let's see what happened to them. I'm not even using my cooldown at the moment, and they are vampiric. So let's use the shouts. And there you go. Done. Deleted. Like, there you go. Well, done. So there you go, guys. That's the build, pretty much. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you will enjoy my build. If you like it, let me know. If you have any suggestion, let me know. If you have any critics, let me know as well. This is my very first video, guys. Let me know how did it go. If you like it, if you want more guides or video from me, let me know. Any suggestion is welcome for content. And yeah, I mean, I really don't care that much. I do this as a hobby at the moment, but if you want to subscribe to show appreciation, if you want me to continue, yeah, just it costs you nothing. Feel free to subscribe, and I hope, guys, I'll see you next time. Have fun with my build. Bye bye.